Thank you to OCCJ and to the Trialogue Committee for inviting the John Hope Franklin Center to be part of this wonderful program. We are particularly honored to be here this afternoon and bring our new watchword, which is where peacemakers gather. And I feel as if I am in an instance of where peacemakers gather as I come into this room, and that was really nice. I also have to say that way back in the day, I was part of the Booker T. Washington choir. I couldn't sing, but we never looked that good. I am straight up envious of how well they sounded, how good they sounded, how well they performed, and how great they looked. So I say, since they're in that room back there, we give them one more round of applause. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who is here as a peacemaker or a curious person who, by your very presence today, has confirmed that you give priority to human relations. Not usually the first topic of choice on a dreary day in winter Oklahoma, and certainly more than a challenge on a beautiful, warm, sunny, exceptional Oklahoma day in February. So thank you. We appreciate you and we recognize you as fellow trailblazers in the effort to explore and possibly reframe race relations in Tulsa and beyond. I was asked to talk about race relations in our community in the past and now, and since I have a time limit, I wrote it all down. For a long time, Tulsa history, actually all of history in Oklahoma and elsewhere, seemed to consist primarily of events and activities in which people of color were more likely to be absent than even incidental. Indeed, Tulsa's own Dr. John Hope Franklin rose to the top of his field as a historian by standing on the then novel idea that the study of any era must include all of the people who were present, not just the dominant group. And although most of us now take for granted that every group must be considered and included, even to the point of checking for multiple factions within each group, that has not always been the case. Recent, welcomed, and much appreciated attention to the 1921 Tulsa race riot has encouraged interest in early Tulsa. However, I believe a race relations conversation has to go back even earlier than that. Back even before Tulsa's incorporation in 1898. So I'm asking you to take a journey with me. We're going to leapfrog over a number of years. We're going to just barely touch on some major known events in history, but I want to bring a few things to your attention. First, I want to jump all the way back to 1860. We're skipping over a lot of cultural encounters, including the Jamestown colonies, which actually can be said to have set the tone for pretty much everything that followed them, and that was in the 1600s. But this is just an introduction, not a whole exploratory course. So let's agree that when you hear something that interests you, or when I jump over something that you believe to be super important, you'll mark it on your bibliography, you'll go to your nearest library, you'll make sure you have a library card. If access to information is truly important to you, you already have one in your wallet or your bag. And if you're just coming to that conclusion, you can get one free, the first one, at the library. You'll use your library card then to pursue this additional information, or you'll just go home and Google it all. But let's agree that we're just going to glaze over some things and bounce around from snapshot to snapshot for just a second. It's 1860. The place is Indian Territory. The population is about 55,000 Native Americans, about 8,500 black people, most of whom were slaves owned by those Native Americans, and about 3,500 white people, many of whom had arrived together by way of the Trail of Tears, which we all know resulted from an Indian removal policy of the United States and asked Native American tribes to move from their southern ancestral homelands east of the Mississippi to lands that were given to them by the federal government, regardless of the fact that they may have belonged to somebody else at the time, but by the federal government that were west of the Mississippi. Okay, so we're there in Indian Territory, we're looking around us, and we see a group of people who are different from the group of people, really, those of us who populate here. Now I need to take another leap, or really just a jump. We're jumping over 600,000 lives, but over only about a decade, because we're crossing over the Civil War in one big swoop. Chattel slavery and chattel slave holding have been outlawed. A little bit later, we're still in Oklahoma, Jim Crow laws are being enacted in the South, and people are now being separated by race. And we've created, along with these separation points, the need for separate accommodations and separate services for the groups of people. And we've really divided the world truly by white and black. So we've got need for now separate accommodations and separate services for both groups. In Oklahoma, many people who had been enslaved and were freed settled near where they had been freed. Everybody was looking for ways to improve their future from what it had seemed in the past, in the deep long ago past or in the near past. They wanted something better. Some settled themselves all together in all black towns to escape the grinding everyday assault of Jim Crow laws. Others sought beyond the opportunities of racial segregation and came to urban places such as Tulsa, where racial segregation still existed, but they saw that the opportunities may have been different or better for them. The white population of Indian Territory and the adjacent Oklahoma Territory was growing. Many of those same people, many of all these new people, white, black, and Native, were coming from the South. And all of them were seeking that same idea, better opportunities for the future. All these populations were carrying their past, both the experiences and the expectations, as they navigated toward their way toward those improved futures. For those who were making their lives in the Tulsa area, oil proved to be an important catalyst, helping to shift Tulsa from, and I'm borrowing this phrase directly from Hannibal Johnson, helping to shift Tulsa from a dusty hamlet to a gleaming city. Oil brought wealth. It brought the wealth of ownership and management to some. It brought the wealth of secure labor and employment opportunities to others. And it brought the wealth of entrepreneurship amidst owners and laborers for still others. And through it all, Jim Crow brought separation. Now we need to bounce forward again. This time, we're leaping over the horrific events of 1921 in Tulsa. If you're not familiar with them, library card, blue bibliography, Google. That period is often referred to, that event is often referred to as the deadliest racial incident in U.S. history. And by skipping over it, if I'm not careful and don't mention it now, we also skip over a major opportunity to dwell on what might then be among the greatest periods of collective courage and resilience in the United States, as a whole community lifted itself and recovered from the horrific events that make up the deadliest race incident in our country. We're getting closer to today, just be a little bit patient. Think about this. People live separate lives in Tulsa. Somebody could have jumped up and challenged me on that. Come on. We don't know each other. And people who don't know each other grow fearful of each other. It's hard to grow understanding of what we don't know. In that condition of not knowing and the real, sometimes legal, silos that we built nearly a lifetime ago to protect ourselves under Jim Crow, we have to do something different. And I think we're beginning to do that now in some spheres. The truth is, when we're separated by law, sometimes those barriers become familiar. We have to adjust. As humans, we often fall into speculation, avoidance, and imagination about that we don't know. We draw on our past experiences to speculate about what might have been true in the past and conjure what that may mean today. We fall into othering, and that allows us to fill our blanks with our deepest fears and our worst imaginings. We turn other human beings into monsters sometime in the process. When separation is sanctioned by law, we call that de jure segregation. People tend to adjust to the law in order to stay outside its punishments. The behaviors that we learn to protect ourselves may be tough to unlearn. Even when the law changes, we may still follow the same habits. That's called de facto segregation. Consider a dog that stays on the porch even after the electric fence is moved. We see that and we say, stupid dog. And consider that there are some among us who, on their way to this event, I'm willing to conjecture, had the steering wheel in one hand and phone in the other, and sent somebody a tweet or a message to say, I'm on my way to the Trialogue series, it's gonna be at Wilson Teaching and Learning Academy, come on. We know better than that. Some of us are thinking stupid drivers. So we're gonna take one last leap. We're here today, right here, right now. We are here, and on the other hand, on the one hand, we can marvel at solid construction techniques that were used to build those silos nearly 100 years ago. On the other hand, as we talk the rhetoric of inclusion, it becomes harder and harder to understand why we're still finding refuge in those silos. It's a little crazy to us. We're missing opportunities in those silos to access all of the talents we need to solve the super complex global challenges that confront us. So what do? In my academic life, I learned you can't point out a problem without offering a solution. Otherwise, you're just part of the problem. So here goes. Given that many of us have become accustomed to living comfortably within silos of race, language, age, religion, gender, sexual orientation, whatever, I suggest we begin immediately to dismantle those silos one brick at a time. How do we do that? And why would we have to take them down? They're so pretty, and they have existed for 100 years. Why can't we just revere them? If we don't dismantle them, the first chance we get, we run back in them. Our intentions may be strong, but they will not withstand the temptation to go back, so we take them apart. And then we look at where they were and we say beautiful landscape, not beautiful silos, is what I'm thinking. So how do we take them down? We each decide we don't want them there, and we begin to work against them. We each make a commitment to do something different, to expand our comfort zone beyond the silo, and every time we do it, we take a brick with us. That's hard work. So we will indeed, in the end, start to complain about it. We'll complain to our friends. I'm the only one moving bricks. I'm the only one who's going to X and Y. You need to come with me, and you need to get a brick and bring it, because otherwise that's more work for me. I don't want this to be that way. Come help me. If we enjoyed our friends to help us, it's all going to be hard work, but it won't take nearly as long. And when it's done, it will be done. And because we're not always together in everything, the bricks will be scattered everywhere. It will be even harder for us to rebuild. That's my suggestion. I was going to do this whole long thing about race relations and wander through all the details and all of that, but I realized that's kind of time consuming, and that doesn't get us change. That just gets us thinking. Thinking doesn't make the difference that we need to make now. So, my suggestion is that we all, as I said, begin to change our comfort zones. I'm willing to talk more about how that works. And I'm willing to offer one big significant step, and that is everybody should come and visit Reconciliation Park. Make an adventure of it, bring your friends, your family, or decide that you're going to join our docent program, and then you can host other people while they're doing it and be inspired to do it yourselves. The overall commitment is simple. We define our comfort zone, we decide what makes it expand. We start where we can, we do more as it becomes comfortable to do so. Discomfort, loss of equilibrium, forces us to learn. We'll do, as human beings, we'll do practically anything to get back to equilibrium when we're out of balance. The only choice that we're closing off to ourselves is doing nothing or doing less. So here's my take on race relations. We redefine the whole thing. We decide to accept difference and respect different, even to admire difference, and we resolve to be open with it. We commit to improve human relations. We seek to expand our comfort zones. We reach out beyond the familiar, make new friends, and learn new stuff. As we will hear from our speakers today, we will see that for many of us, the past is not illuminated just with bright, sparkly moments of human kindness. We have to know that by hearing and appreciating these examples, we can be energized to assure that these unpleasantries, these pains, and these troubles are not repeated in the future. We can use the memories of the events to be recounted here as fuel to keep us carting away one silo brick at a time until we're all outside the silos, benefiting from all the knowledge that we will carry together. So, in a complete non sequitur, because I'm accepting a dare from a friend who does not live in Tulsa, I'm offering this bit of information as shared knowledge. Knowledge that, according to Saturday Night Live, has been held in one community, but not perhaps in all. If you missed the show and the YouTube video, I'm gonna be the first one to break the news to you. Beyonce is black. Thank you for your attention.